We got the Hoover criminals versus the neighborhood Crips, man. So shout out to Warren Cali. You feel me? I'm about to do this reaction real quick and see exactly what's going on. You know,
This channel has been a long time coming. I would like to give a shout out to Hood Politics. I've seen many segments of different cities and different stories, but none of them being correct or accurate. This here is Warren Cali. Everything you see here is going to be straightforward accuracy.
hey, you ever seen Menace to Society? Tell me this nigga don't sound like Kane. And then if you peep like how when Kane was narrating Menace to Society, is this kind of like similar though? This hard. I like this.
Now let's get into it. My first story, this first segment of Warren Cali, is going to be the Hoovers versus the neighborhoods. South Central Los Angeles is broken into two sides, the west side and the east side. They're divided by the 110 freeway. The Hoover criminals started in the early 1970s on the west side of Los Angeles as the Hoover Groupers. Around that time, many gangs all over South Central Los Angeles were becoming Crips. Stanley Tookie Williams and Raymond Washington, prominent Crips in the 1970s, convinced the Hoover Groupers to join the Crips. They accepted. By the late 1970s, the Hoovers became one of the most respected and feared Crips in the city. But by the 1980s, they became one of the most hated. As you can see on this map, the Hoovers cover a lot of territory, but this is just a small portion of their territory. They stretch from 52nd to 112th on Hoover. The Hoover consists of many subsets under the Hoover umbrella, starting with the 5 Deuce Hoovers. This is the only Hoover set that remains Crips to this day. The remaining Hoovers are the 5-9 Hoovers, the 7-4s, the 8 Trays, not to get confused with the 8 Tray Gangsters, the 9 Deuces, the 9-4s, the 107s, and 11 Deuces. There used to be a 4-Tray Hoover, but it faded out with many members dying, going to jail, and just a switch in the overall neighborhood. Now this area is considered the Dark Side 40s neighborhood Crips territory, which would be the rivals to the Hoovers. The Hoovers took on a reputation in the 80s and the 90s as one of the grimiest and shadiest hoods in Los Angeles, taking on anyone who challenged them from the Crips to the Bloods and even some Serrano gangs, gaining them the motto EBK, which stands for Everybody Killer, which caused them many fallouts and many beats in LA. LA was split into 2 different cards, the Gangster Crip card and the Neighborhood Crip card. The Hoovers chose neither because they had beef with every neighborhood gang, which we'll get into in a minute, and most of the Gangster Crip gangs. With all the beef coming from both cards, Hoovers decided to drop the Crip from their identity and just become criminals. With most of their rivals being Crips, they thought why remain a Crip faction? Orange would become the most identifiable color with the Hoovers, and primary color, and so would the Houston Astro hat to identify the H in Hoover. So by the mid-90s, the Hoover Crips was no longer, but you still may hear some OGs in their 40s and uprange still refer to themselves as Crips. But for the last few decades, the Hoovers have been referred to as criminals. Now let's get into their rivals, the Neighborhood Crips. The Neighborhood Crips consists of many different sets. You might be most familiar with the Rolling 60 Crips.
Hey, before we even get into the Crips, right? This channel should be considered like a educational channel. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like a documentary. So,
which famous rapper Nipsey Hussle was from. But the Neighborhood Crips consists of over 30 different gangs in this card. Some being the East Coast Crips, which has many different subsets under that umbrella. Others in the Neighborhood card include the Rolling 40s, the Rolling 90s, as well as the Rolling 100s. They all fall under the Neighborhood card. Rolling 30s are a close ally of the Neighborhood card, but they are not a Neighborhood card. They are in a Rolling Alliance, which includes the 30s, the 40s, the 60s, the 90s, the 100s as well. In my opinion, I believe this is the biggest card with so many gangs and those gangs having huge numbers. The Neighborhood Crips started a little bit after 1979, after the war began between the Rolling 60 Crips and the 8 Tray Gangsters. This war started over a Rolling 60's brother being killed by 8 Tray Gangster. This war left many picking sides. Some choosing the Rolling 60s, others choosing the 8 Tray Gangsters. According to Munster Cody, a reputable 8 Tray Gangster Crip In his book, The Autobiography of an LA Gang Member, page 267, he spotted in 1984 a meeting between the Rolling 60s, the Raymond Crips, and other Crip neighborhoods, which would be a meeting to form an allegiance against other gangs that were their rivals. That would be the Hoovers and any other gang claiming gangster Crip.
Hey, rest in peace, Monster Cody. That's one thing I'm gonna say because, nigga, I done watched I ain't gonna lie, I watched countless documentary or little excerpts and interviews from him, and he was super educated though. That's one thing I am gonna say, and he was articulate. You feel me? And just he seemed diplomatic, but at the same time he definitely seemed like he wasn't for none. Like he wasn't about to play too many games with you, or you know what I mean? Like he told a cold story too. I don't mean to just go off on a but he told a cold story about what got him into game banging. Y'all should go check that interview out. I think it's on Kev Mac Stories, but Kev Mac Videos. Shout out Kev Mac Videos. But yeah, man, he told a cold story about how he got into game banging. And it's real short. It ain't gonna take up too much of your time. Go check that out when you get a chance.
The Hoovers are hated by some gangs for different reasons. Shout out to Kev Mac for the insight on all the hoods from his interviews with many neighborhood gangs. You can see the outlooks on why some rivalries started with the Hoovers. Here's Big U, an OG member of the Rolling 60s. Crips, a part of the neighborhood card, describing incidents in the late 70s.
That we used to go to, we was in Horseman. That was my first time going there, and we got into it with the Hoovers. I mean, I don't think we ever got along with the Hoovers in my whole existence. And this had to be like 79, even before we was fighting HOA gangsters. The homies get into it with the Hoovers, and the homies and the Hoovers got into it in the skate ring. And I remember we squabbling.
Big U describes the Hoover beef starting back in the late 1970s. Here's another OG member of the neighborhood Crips, or the Raymond set to be exact, also sharing his run-ins with the Hoovers in that era.
Fights with y'all, but everybody don't realize the Hoovers started hating us because of our alliance with the 60s. When all that shit started in the 80s, y'all and them, who did they see together all the time? What, 60s over here, Raymond's on Bryanhurst, 8th Ave, 11th Ave,
The Raymond Hoover beef is the 80s, the 70s beef?
It's a 70s beef, but it was no... I was going to Henry Clay, man, in the 70s, man, and we had fist fights because they thought they were stronger than us.
Because you ain't knowing, you ain't hearing about us, nigga. We get into it, everybody across the army. Blocks too. I said, my hood too. He said, yeah, cuz. He said, nigga, every day, nigga, we been getting up at the Washington at the school let out, homie. We getting down. He said, man, Hawk, you been in jail, nigga. When you go to your hood, homie, they gonna let you know what's been going on. I said, damn, homie, I thought that shit got squared away, man, when I been going to you. He said, oh no, he came back, man. He said, man, we fighting like a motherfucker, he said.
With over 4 decades of bloodshed between the Hoovers and gangs in the neighborhood card, I would like to take a deep dive into a few cases that have happened in the past between the Hoovers and the neighborhood card. This channel doesn't condone snitching or putting anyone in jail. Everything said about these cases are public record. It wouldn't affect or get anyone additional jail time. Our first case starts in July 11, 1989, of the now non-existent set of the Fort Trey Hoovers. 4 members of the Fort Trey Hoovers, Maurice Taylor, Judah Bean, 8-Ball, and Big Black, stood on the corner of 43rd and Kansas. Things quickly went bad when a man named Troy Mitchell yelled from a nearby apartment building, "Fuck Hoover." Judah Bean led the other 3 Hoovers to Mitchell's apartment and an altercation pursued. After the fight ended, all of the Fort Trey Hoovers went back to the corner of 43rd and Kansas. Mitchell drove by the group with his fellow Rolling 40 gang members and opened fire on the group, hitting Big Black in the ankle and Judah Bean in the arm. Big Black was taken to the hospital, and Judah Bean refused and retreated to an unhouse nearby. Kimberly John.
Hey, I will listen to the rest of them stories with y'all, but I'm gonna let y'all go over there to the War in Cali's channel and just listen to the last 3 minutes or 2 minutes of that video if you decide to. But that was a cool video, man, and that was some insight on what I was saying about it being different forms of education. It definitely is, but when I be getting high, I don't be focused on thinking on doing all that, you know what I mean? But You know, because they got like physical education, and then they got this, but this, you know, this could fall under, you know, like street knowledge, and then like tourists that be out there in LA, because LA definitely got a lot of tourists, and you know, LA is tricky because it look nice, and a lot of people like from out of like different states and different places like that, like you know, like try to throw little jabs and say little things like, man, it's palm trees and it's real nice, and you get your head knocked off, you know, so you keep playing, and then But that ain't even nothing to glorify. That's you know, that's terrible. But at the same time, like I was saying about the tourists, it just let them know like what areas is dangerous and what areas is, you know, is known for what, and this, that, and the third. But yeah, man, when y'all get a chance, man, y'all go tap in the Warren Cali channel. Like I said, man, I'm just here to watch this, man, and get some insight. I got some knowledge from the video, so it's definitely educational, you know, in a way. But they might try to, you know, classify this as entertainment. Like, ain't nothing entertainment about it. You see how scandalous it is too. You see, ain't what's entertaining about, you know, genocide and this, that, and the third. Nothing. But you know, that's neither here nor there, man. Y'all tap in when y'all get a chance to tap in, man. It's gang.
What you say? I said whoever threw that paper, your mom's a hoe.